What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. I am having a blast doing these shows, and the fact that I'm launching this channel also tickles me. I put this off for a long time, and I'm getting no, I mean, I don't have a ton of subscribers, right? But the feedback I'm getting is good, and I'm glad people appreciate it. So that's going to give me even more motivation. I guess maybe what I'm caught in is a busy time where this March Madness tournament, that comes into Vegas. A lot of my friends growing up, be it grade school, Pop Warner, high school, college, coworkers, from my days in corporate America, packs come in, and it's just tradition, and it's had me busy. I mean, really, really busy. Goes and I tried to front load as much of our work that we could, so we could kind of just take these 2 days to chill and not even have to pay attention to anything, because we're pretty flexible. I'll give you an example. Last night we went to a dinner, and then we had to rush back to interview Tatsuro Taira. We're not going to turn that down. Tatsuro Taira was fighting for the UFC flyweight title in less than a month, and he was only available. Actually, he's more flexible. It was the translator, who I think is in Japan, while Taira is camping in Colorado, if I'm not mistaken. But we do what we can, and that was an important one. So we came home, we knocked that out. We also did the show, and I'm trying to run this March Madness pool, so it's been crazy. I haven't slept much, and knock on wood, if there's any. And even though I don't really believe in jinxes, maybe I should this one time, because I don't want to get sick. I definitely don't want to get sick. We still have about a day and a half of the madness left. In fact, really, it extends into Sunday, but the real madness is Thursday and Friday, where there's 16 games every day, and we go from 64 teams to 16 teams. That's why they call it the Sweet 16. But even the games on Saturday and Sunday are tons of fun. So if I can break away, I'll go do that. I know there's some fights going on as well, but I'm going to try and do it all. And so I had left you guys, a teaser that I'm going to really try to make rankings of one of the consistent shows here, right? And the rankings got published on Tuesday night. But this is the first chance I've really had a chance to speak on them. Look, it's not the most overwhelming set of rankings, but I still think it's important for you guys to know what kind of goes through our brains, right, as we put these things together, and why we feel they're so important, or at least why I take so much pride in them. So, look, it's pretty simple what happened this past Saturday night. I'm just almost going to read you my communications to the editorial, and then how they pushed back, how we came to an agreement after a little bit of discourse, and fun times, man. I used to do these almost by myself since 2013 till about a year ago, when the editorial started chiming in. And it was a good thing, because you have to evolve, and you have to be open to criticism. Not that they hammered me with it, but just suggestions, right? Because times do change, and perhaps I was stuck in certain ways. I think anybody that's followed my career at MMA Junkie has always heard me, when I talk passionately about rankings, that I always say slow to the top and slow coming down. What does that mean? I'm just not going to knee jerk when you have this big win, right? Even though I'm a big believer in the head-to-head format, if you've also been struggling, but now you get the big win, can I just move you over someone? Like, let's say an 11 beats a 2. Can I just put you at 2, right? What's 3 going to say? What's 4 going to say? What's 5 going to say? Those guys are consistent, heavy hitters, and that's why they're in the top 5. So I have to probably bring 2 down and find a nice landing spot where 11 will be ahead of 2 to reflect the head-to-head, and then also not insult all those others that are out there banging and winning. You can't be ranked number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 if you're losing more than you're winning, right? You can be a 500 fighter, because if number 3 lost to 2-1, there's no shame in that, right? But if you beat 4 and 5 and you're 2-2, you belong at 3, even though 2-2 is not a sexy record. It's 500. You're batting 500, like they say. So anyway, enough of that. Vallejos was an honorable mention, and he defeated Josh Emmett, who was number 11. So that one was pretty easy for me. I just had them switch spots. Again, normally, maybe in the past, I would have brought Emmett down to 13 or 14, slow in, slow out, right? Vallejos, excellent record, beat Chikadze, an aging veteran, but still, a solid fighter. Okay, was that a one-time? But now he beats Emmett, and he's making it look easy. he deserves that bump to number 11, and that's why I put him there. As far as Josh Emmett, he's just been cold, guys. I think it was like 18-1, 18-2 up until like a few years ago, and then he's lost 5 of 6, and they've been pretty brutal endings, some of them too. He's 41. I just don't anticipate him getting any higher bookings that can maybe save him, right, or give him a second win, unless he subs in late notice and just fights someone. But because we're almost going on 19 years, I've seen enough careers and how they evolve, or not evolve, revolve, or whatever, around the sun, we'll call it, or how they just play out, right? The ones that make it to the top, and then the way they tumble down, right? And maybe sometimes there's a resurgence back up, and then they come down, but age really is a bitch, and that's just something that the fighters realize sometimes when it's too late. And sometimes you'll hear them chirping about money. Look at Kobe Covington. Oh, man, I'm a team player. I love the UFC. And in the last week or so, he's really been speaking bad about the UFC and the way he feels like he's been treated. But the UFC's the one thing they are pretty consistent, with the way they operate, in a sense. So the quicker fighters realize that and get on board, I think the better it will be. So always learn from your predecessors, the precedents that have been set in the sport, because more than likely they will apply to you. Okay. So that's what happened there. Now, this one was the one that was a little bit more complicated. Number 11, Gillian Robertson defeated number 6, Amanda Lemos. And Robertson had a loss to Tabitha Ricci. So Robertson was at 11 and Ricci was at 9. I wasn't too sure that I wanted to put her ahead of Ricci. But that was 3 years ago, as was pointed out by the editors. And Robertson's on a roll. I think that's 5 in a row for her. Ricci has lost a couple, but to good fighters as well, right? So that's the discussion. Where do we put them in? I agreed with them, because it was like 3 years ago. They're going in different directions. What I told them, though, that if there's one thing, I don't want to sound dramatic, right? But if there was ever a case where I just cleaned my desk and said, that's it in terms of rankings, because I don't want to leave Junkie. And bear in mind, I'm not serious, so just go with me here. Is when the head-to-head reflects the exact opposite of what it's intended to do. So, if George beats Goes, but Goes is at 6 and George is at 7, to me, that's the stupidest thing possible. If George beat Goes, but Goes is 6 and George is 7, we just can't have that. I have to have at least a buffer in there, right in the middle, right? And hopefully it's been a round robin, right? Like George beat Goes beat Eric beat George, right? Kind of like A beat B, beat C, and C beat A. Then you usually point to the most recent result of the round robin and go with that. Or if you had 2 decisions and a finish, maybe that's the tiebreaker, and that happens quite often. But there was nothing like that. We had a round robin that included Robertson defeating Lemos defeating Lucindo, and Lucindo defeating Robertson. But as far as Ricci was concerned, I didn't want to place her above her, but eventually I did. It was 3 years ago. And look, this isn't too crazy, right? It was Lemos at 6, Godinez at 7, Andrade at 8, Ricci at 9, Lucindo at 10, and Robertson at 11. After much discussion, we went with Godinez at 6, so she benefits, having not fought, and she's got a fight coming up soon anyway. Jessica Andrade stays at 8. 7 became Robertson. That's what I was trying to say. So we went with Godinez, Robertson, Andrade stays at 8. And before anyone says anything, Jessica Andrade what hurts her is she jumps around weight class, right? And she does have losses and wins. She's a former champ, though, and she has that Dern win. She also has a win over Marina Rodriguez, but she retired. But Marina Rodriguez was a long-time ranked member of the Strawweight division, so it held some value. She's retired since then, but, her losses are to good fighters. But the Dern win is nice. It still hangs in there, and that's why we just kind of left her alone. And anyway, Ricci, that puts her at 9, I believe. And so now we have the buffer of Andrade between Robertson, who lost to Ricci, and Ricci. And there you have it. I mean, other than that, we sprinkled in Charles Johnson. He came back into the honorable mentions, and we punted Tim Elliott. He hasn't been that active. Elliott's solid. There's nothing against him, but you got to be fighting to hold your place, especially when you're in the honorable mention, because that's basically the entrance right into rankings, and it's kind of a revolving door sometimes. Mithelplick, I call him, but his real name is Miktabek Oralbai. He defeated Chris Curtis. We brought him back in, and I let go of Ramazan Kuramagomedov, who just won at PFL over Shamil Musayev. If you don't follow them, it's two Russian guys. But Kuramagomedov is a former Bellator welterweight champ and PFL welterweight champ, and he just hung the first L on Musayev. So he's a stud. I don't know why he's retiring. I think he's only 30. He says, that's it, I'm done. And I checked in with PFL to make sure, because I don't like to remove and then bring him back. And he had stated, I think I'm done, and I'm going to sail off into the sunset, that type of stuff. And then he said, well, maybe I'm not done. He said something like that. And it was, post-fight. Time's gone by, and we decided to check in, and I did. And they said, no, he's retired. So you know what? That's one thing we're doing is we're just not going to hold a place just to hold a place. If we're getting, that kind of answers from the promotion, if he comes back and fights, I'm sure it'll be a big deal. It'll be a big fight, and we can always plug him in. So Mitzelplick goes back in. Vitor Petrino is going in. I had to let go of Dennis Goldsov, who won a title with PFL, but he hasn't been active. And the one time he was, he lost. Elijah Smith, he's in. Found a spot for him as well. We punted Jacob Wicklax. Beatrice Mosquita, she made a nice little jump. I believe, she went straight into the rankings and not the honorable mention. So there you go. I mean, look, I wish I could be talking about the Joneses and Oliveira's, Otoporias of the world, right? Or maybe even pound for pound, but that's just not the week that we're at right now. And I think what I want to do is have some consistency, right, with topics and themes, right? And I think since I produce the rankings, we're going to try and make something out of the rankings, unless numbers just show us that they're not on par with others, which again, I don't have many subscribers. I'm not trying to say there's these crazy numbers that are out there, but still, right? We'll take a look at that. And I'm talking about, over the next year or two when I hope, and I'm pretty confident that the channel will grow. That's when, I'll have some answers. And I don't know. I mean, we are entering a time. Remember, Dana White was obsessed with rankings, and as of late, it's just like, let's make fun fights, or let's make the fights that are economically possible. And, it changes. It changes. The sport changes, and you just have to accept it. You can't be bitter about it. So, notice he hasn't talked much about the meta rankings and AI and, talking to rankings experts. He can talk to me if he wants. I would never want to leave Junkie, that's for sure. I would want him to just use ours. And there is no greatest rankings expert in the world, but I am the most experienced rankings expert in the world. But again, rankings are subjective, and there's some close calls here or there. It depends on your criteria. There is no right and wrong. You can't present ridiculous rankings, right? I mean, they have to make some sense. I think most of us do make sense, and then we differ somewhere around there. But, like I say, I have a lot of experience. I've seen the way careers have played out and the way holdouts work and how long you can hold a fighter in a certain spot, because you cannot tell the viewer, the reader, that someone's stopped being a great fighter only because they've been inactive. It could be a contract situation that's not even their fault, or an injury, or maybe a champion that's not fighting. And so therefore your avenues to continue growing and going upwards have come to a complete stop. So there's different reasons, and I've experienced a lot of those. And that's why I say I'm the most experienced, because I've been doing this since 2013. And even then I used to have fun with them back when we had the Tag Radio website, which unofficially started in 2006, but officially started in 2007. And I followed all kinds of sports. I think I learned a lot from the college football rankings. I think those were the rankings that mattered the most, or even college basketball, right? And football's more of a parallel, because when you think of a fighter, you like to think, what have they done in the last 3 years? Where a fighter that fights 3 times a year, that's 9 fights. And a fighter that fights 2 times a year, that's 6 fights. they're closer more to 2 times a year now than the other, right? Than 3 times a year. But what does that kind of remind you of? When do you start to really gauge where a fighter belongs, right, in the rankings? Is around the 3-year mark, the 3 to maybe even 5-year mark, where you really decide that's how good they are. They have to climb, and it's a process, and it takes a while. And it's very similar to college football. College football, they all start out at 0-0. You have your preseason, your anticipation based on talent, how they finished the year before. But it's not till the games start playing out, right? 4-0, 5-0, 5-1, and they move around, and finally they had to come up with a college playoff, because even then at the end we were speculating and just guessing and going with the AP poll, the USA Today Sports poll, and the BCI. I mean, so many things, right? Where we had to just kind of pick and choose, and the power of your wins and losses, or the conference, right? Are you in a big conference? The margin of victory. It was a little bit of guessing as well, but they usually got pretty damn close, and that's kind of what we're trying to do here. All right, folks. So again, this will be something where I need to plug away at them and get them quicker to you, because they matter more when they have most recently occurred, and now our site publishes them on Tuesday. I wouldn't be surprised if we start bringing that up, because now I've been starting to work on my rankings and get them done a little bit earlier, but maybe it'll be a Monday's release, or who knows. It's a lot of work, but still I enjoy it, and it would free up maybe later, a latter part of my week, if I just, I guess, really dove into it right after the fights, like on a Saturday. That's usually when I'm planning spinning back leg, or on a Sunday, but I have to have at least that time to spend with Juliet, my family, whoever, because that's, the weekend is obviously the weekend. And I do spend some time doing spinning back leg and reacting to the fights, watching them over, stuff like that. Geez, I'm looking at a highlight here that says, man arrested for the 36th time. This is local Vegas news. Come on. What are we doing here with that guy? He's been arrested 36 times? Holy cow. Never heard of something like that. But anyhow, I hope you're all enjoying March Madness. If you are fans of college hoops, it is a great time of year. And I'm going to head back to the sports book. But I had to kind of come home, and I made a mistake. I thought Manchester United was going to play today. And since I don't have a college team to root for, right? Because the team I root for, USC Trojans, they're a football powerhouse, but they suck this year in basketball. And so I also support Goes' school, UNLV, but they're not in it. They're in the NIT. And so I thought I looked and that Manchester United was going to play. I go, all right, well, I'll just wear Manchester United. And I'm sitting there like a fool. They play tomorrow. So I told Goes I'm just going to come home and knock out a video, head back, pretty soon, and just change the shirt, change into something else. So I hope you find you all in good health and in good spirits. And again, if you're enjoying March Madness, great. And if not, I think you're missing out. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. All right, go out and be a champion. Love you all. Take care. Be a champion. Don't just take up space on this earth. Go out and be a champion. Oh. This show I will dedicate to, I had a name. Chris from Seattle. That's right. Chris from Seattle. Him and he's a big March Madness fan. He's a big pro football fan. I had to thank him or congratulate him for the Seahawks win recently. I go hard talking shit all year, but when your team wins, you just have to be a man and shake that hand, congratulate, give him about a week, right? Let him enjoy the parade and all that, and then the shit talking starts all over again. But he's a good guy, and he's really been supportive of my brother and I, Chris from Seattle. So big shout out to you. This show's for you. I'm going to do another show for Chris and some of the previous shout outs, because remember, we're still in the preseason. This is preseason number 7. So now go out and be a champion.